Hey everybody, Jim here, and tonight, nice brisk chilly night. I'm out here in Shinjuku to, I guess, hang around, maybe get some food, hit a bar or something like that. But before I do so, I want to do a little bit of game hunting. So I think I want to go to at least one book off while I'm here, and I definitely want to go to Suragaya. Then after I get that done and I get the games I want, then the nightlife stuff can kick in. But while we're here, let's go game hunting together. So I'm gonna walk around, film some stuff, have a little fun, and then we're gonna go look at some video games. So stick around and enjoy the scenery. It's Shinjuku, it's nighttime, it's obviously awesome. All right, let's go, let's do this. So we are over closer to the west side of the station right now. Actually, forgot that this is actually the side where the book off is. We're coming up on I guess it's called the 110 building. It's kind of like a big shopping center, I guess, but there's a book off inside. It's 2 floors, I think. And there's like a bunch of stuff. There's way more than just books. There's figures, manga, things like that, but tons of games as well. So that's what we're gonna get started with. I think it's on like the 5th and 6th floor. So let's get inside and check it out. so that was the book off at the 101 building. So as you saw, they didn't have much in the way of retro games. They had a ton of like Switch and PS4, that kind of thing. Obviously, being a book off, they had more modern stuff than retro stuff. So I actually didn't pick up anything in there, but that's okay, because I'm about to head back over to the east side, and we're gonna go to Surugaya, and I know with 100% certainty they're gonna have probably a whole lot of stuff I want. So we're gonna do that. So we're gonna head back over to the east side, and we're gonna get ourselves in a Surugaya loaded with games. All right, let's go. Okay, so now we are coming up on the Marui Annex building, and it's right here next to the Walled 9 movie theater. This particular building is like, it's a huge shopping center, so there's just like floor after floor of all kinds of different places. But most importantly, on the 5th floor, they have a Surugaya, and it has all kinds of stuff for collectors, you know, things like figures, model kits, manga, board games, other various things. But most importantly for us, they have a nice big selection of video games, and that's what we're here for tonight. So let's get inside the Marui Annex, let's go to Surugaya, and let's get us some games. Here we go.
Capcom Original RPG Breath of Fire 始まる。Capcom
All right, finally getting to some game hunting proper. Having a look at some Famicom games. Getting started with something caught my eye. This game, Kira Kira Star Knight DX, I believe by a company called Riki, which this is a pretty cool game. Very simple, you just collect stars and whatnot, but very colorful, and the soundtrack is awesome. I think that's the real appeal to this game, honestly, is you get it for the soundtrack. But that's 3,200 yen, so not too bad, I suppose. And I think Columbus Circle published it. They published a lot of cool like indie stuff recently. As we carry on, this also for 3,600 yen, not bad for a complete copy of Parodius Da, which I'm a huge fan of the Gradius series, and so it makes sense that I'd really love Parodius as well, because it's the same basic gameplay, but with a lot of wacky stuff that you'll find in some of these Japanese exclusive games. That's typically why they didn't get Western releases. Maybe some stuff that people wouldn't exactly appreciate the humor. For 20 some odd bucks, this is Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun, aka Renegade, which is a really fun game. Very simple though, very short, and the precursor to games like River City Ransom and Super Dodgeball. So you can't go wrong with kind of the first attempt at a beat 'em up by Technos Japan until they went on to Double Dragon. And this, speaking of beat 'em ups, 9,700 yen, not a cheap game. But Mighty Final Fight, I say if this game had 2 players, it would be the best beat 'em up on the Famicom or NES. It very nearly is the best beat 'em up anyway, just because the gameplay, graphics, and soundtrack are awesome. Moving on to some Super Famicom games. We have here a game I bring up all the time. You can't go wrong with it for 2,200 yen. Ganbari Goemon 2, the sequel to Legend of the Mystical Ninja, I do believe. Really great. One of the best platformers on the Super Famicom, which is saying a lot. All 4 of those games are really fantastic. And here, speaking of Kunio, we have, I believe that this is Shin Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun, the sequel to River City Ransom, and it incorporates some cool stuff from Renegade. But it is 2 players, and you can actually swap back and forth between Kunio and Ricky and their girlfriends as well, so they can get it in on the action. So they're not just damsels in distress, they can do some ass kicking of their own. And speaking of Parodius as well, I think this is Gokujo Parodius. And again, great shoot 'em up, lots of fun, and as you can see, more of that, I guess, that strange Japanese aesthetic that maybe wouldn't fly so well overseas. But they're still great games, lots of fun. Had a look at some PC Engine as well. They had quite a lot of stuff, but really only one game caught my eye. It's a game that, well, here it is. I'm always looking for more copies of it, and I always talk about it. 7,400 yen for Download 2. I love this game for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, it's a really fun, well-made shoot 'em up with good graphics and sound. And then it's crazy. Here, you get to fight Hitler inside his own brain. You go into the brain of Hitler and you destroy him from within. And any game that allows you to do that, you know, there's something to it, you know. I think more people should be aware of it. Here we got some Dreamcast games. Of course, I'm a huge fan of the Dreamcast and its library of games for 10,500 yen. So that's under $100. Not cheap for yeah, this absolutely amazing game, Twinkle Star Sprites. Competitive, like one-on-one shoot 'em up, where you just try to create as much anarchy and havoc as you possibly can for the other player, and that's very cool. And then here, something also just awesome, 7,900 yen for Sturmwind, one of the earlier kind of indie shoot 'em ups to get published on the Dreamcast. It's a great game, lots of fun, and I believe it is now available on the Nintendo Switch as well. So any way you can play it, Sturmwind. That's a good game. We got lots more stuff here on the Dreamcast. We got Cool Tune, US Shinmu, which is awesome, Sega Gaga, Space Channel 5 Part 2, I believe, Sonic Adventure, I mean, on and on and on, Dead or Alive, Biohazard 2, my favorite version of Biohazard 2, by the way. And then we moved on to some Saturn games. They have a ton of stuff here. 7,500 for X-Men vs. Street Fighter with the box and the 4 meg RAM cart, which is one of my favorite fighting games ever. Also, some Vampire Savior, my favorite in the series, and then 600 yen for Vampire Hunter, which is just very affordable game. If you're going to start a import Saturn collection, that might be one to start with. And here we have In the Hunt. Extremely fun game. Unique premise for a shoot 'em up on the Saturn. The whole submarine, whole dealio going on, and obviously from the same development studio as Metal Slug. So really great graphics, good sound design, and just epic gameplay. Very good stuff. And it's about $100, so not cheap. Lots of shooters on the Saturn are not exactly cheap, but you get what you pay for. They're great games. 2,900 for Guardian Heroes. Again, still under $30 for that game. Great game. Here's one of my favorites. Japan exclusive Saturn games by Capcom. Cyberbots.
I mean, just an immensely fun 2D fighter with giant robots, and still a pretty affordable game, and tons of fun, simple, easy to pick up and play, great graphics, great sound. Yeah, it's a shame that that did not get a Western release, but we got some of the Samurai Spirits, King of Fighters games, including 96 here, and 97 as well, and they have either just the jewel case, or you can pick it up in a box with the RAM cart, and that's quite awesome. And then this, always happy to come across this, 800 yen, Sakura Wars Columns. This is another game that's very affordable, pretty easy to come by. If you're starting a Saturn import collection, this would be a good game to start with, because it's affordable, and it's very fun, and again, it is a Japan exclusive, and it has a sequel on the Dreamcast as well, which is also fun. We got lots more stuff here, including more shoot-'em-ups like Strikers 1945, which is fantastic, Darius Gaiden, and this, a heavy hitter, Donpachi, for 6,400 yen. Of course, the precursor to Dodonpachi, which is a better game, but this is still an amazing shoot-'em-up. And I'd say as far as shooters go on the Saturn, it is one of the more affordable. 6,400 when you're talking about Saturn shooters is actually not that bad. And we're looking at, well, first of all, a copy of Bram Stoker's Dracula on the North American Sega CD. So who the hell knows how that ended up here. As we're looking at some Mega CD stuff, including Echo CD. They had some Mega CD, a little bit of like 132X game you can see there. Stuff I'm not really collecting for, don't really get requests for so much. But here, Arrow Flash, 12,500 yen. Not cheap at all, but this is a really great shoot 'em up on the Mega Drive and Sega Genesis as well. So if you've got a North American Genesis, you can still find Arrow Flash. Great game, lots of fun. Kind of steep though, but we got other stuff here like Thunder Force and Gunstar Heroes. So much goodness. Lots of quality titles here. Strider Hiryu, 2,200 yen, and 1,200 yen for Super Thunderblade, a launch title for the Mega Drive in Japan. And this, what is this? 3,200 for Street Fighter 2 Dash Plus, Champion Edition, which is you know, just a great version of that game, especially if you got a 6-button controller. And here, this is very cool. Darius Extra Edition. This is actually a recent release for the Mega Drive. It is the original Darius, but I guess upgraded, made all the more better. So this is really cool. I think this was actually released earlier this year, and you know, there's no better way to fight giant fish and crustacean spaceships, I guess. But yeah, Darius Extra Edition for 5,000 yen. So probably in the neighborhood of like $44 or $45, so that ain't bad. And Dragon Ball Z Booyah Retsuden, which if you like the Super Butoden games on the Super Famicom, you'll like this game, because it's the exact same gameplay. It's just the Mega Drive version of one of the Super Butoden games. So yeah, that ain't bad. And we, you know, have a quick look. There's lots of stuff there. Fantasy Star and Puyo Puyo Bare Knuckle, but we're gonna wrap it up coming up here soon. But lots of good stuff in here, so I left with a bag full of games. Ooh, Mark III in the box. Don't come across that every day. Game Gear as well. Anyway, let's wrap up this little game hunting trip. Let's get outside for some final words.
Okay, so that'll do it for the Suragaya in the Marui Annex. Had some fun looking around at things. Even got myself a nice bag of games here. Good selection of stuff. Always nice to stop into the Suragaya here, because they usually get new stuff in, and the prices aren't, well, they aren't too terrible. Anyway, I think that's it for me for tonight, because getting a little late, and I'm kind of hungry. Haven't had my dinner yet. So I hope you enjoyed tagging along tonight for a little game hunting run in Shinjuku. Always fun to do some night hunting. And anyway, until next time, take care, everybody, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.
Hey everybody, Jim here, and tonight I am in Akihabara, and I'm here at Super Potato, which is sort of like the most well-known retro game shop in town, and I'm here because tonight I want to show you that you can start a Super Famicom collection for less than $50. This is a shop that's known for being, some people have used the term tourist trap. It's very expensive, and the truth is, if you're looking for like collector's items, things like that, yeah, it can be very expensive, but actually if you're searching for things that are not so uncommon, it's actually a fairly affordable shop. So for less than 5,000 yen, less than 50 bucks, we're gonna start a nice little Super Famicom collection. And we are only gonna pick up loose carts because box games are obviously gonna be more expensive, and we're gonna try to get at least one first-party Nintendo game, one platformer that is not a first-party Nintendo game, one fighting game, one shoot 'em up, and one puzzle game. And then whatever we get in addition to that is just icing on the cake. So let's get inside and start our nice little collection, again, for under 50 bucks.
お尻に火がつく面白さスーパーマリオブラザーズ4スーパーファミコンでいよいよデビュー
So we get started with the first party games, and I considered a few classics like Super Donkey Kong for 528 yen, a decent price. The old standby Super Mario World, which costs a little more actually at 638, or possibly an old favorite in Super Mario Kart at 858. But I decided to go with the cheapest option, which was Yoshi's Island, which many would say is the best of the bunch. If you've somehow still never played it, it's definitely one of the best 16-bit platformers ever made, in my personal opinion, even if the crying baby Mario can get a little annoying after a while. It features some very impressive and creative visuals for a game of its time, an enjoyable soundtrack that features a wide range of great and memorable tracks, and of course some very fun gameplay. And at only 418 yen, it's a perfect game to kick off your new Super Famicom collection. Next up, we're looking for another good platformer, and at first I considered Super Ginjin, aka Super Bonk, which is a good deal at 858 yen, or possibly Super Ginjin 2, which is pricier at 1408, but still not too bad. But instead, I decided to go with the second game in the Japan exclusive Go-Go Akman series. If you've never heard of it, it's a trilogy of games based on a series of manga and anime created by Akira Toriyama, hence his very recognizable art style. There's some very well-made and fun platformers that give you a whole bunch of weapons to play around with and lots of boss battles to take on. Plus, they all feature some very nice graphics and sound, and with this being the most affordable of the bunch at 858 yen, it makes a great addition to our new Super Famicom collection. Okay, now we want a shooter, which was the toughest to find, as games like Sonic Wings, R-Type 3, and Parodius are all fairly expensive. Area 88, aka UN Squadron at 1848, was considered not a bad price, but I found a better deal on a copy of Poppin' Twinbee. This shoot-'em-up from Konami is very well made, as you might expect. It's a top-down shooter where you shoot down enemies both in front of and below you, kind of like an old game of Xevious, all the while picking up a wide variety of multicolored bells that grant you an assortment of power-ups. The gameplay is super smooth, challenging, and extremely fun. The visuals are very colorful, and the soundtrack is excellent, and this is probably one of the better shooters available on the console, and at only 1,258 yen, it is indeed a great value. Next up, I was looking for a good beat-em-up, and my first thought was the Kunio-kun games. The sequel to River City Ransom, Shodai Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun, wasn't exactly cheap at 2508, and the prequel Shin Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun is a little more at 3058. I also considered another Technos Japan game, the Comba Tribes, at $11.88, which is a decent price, or Rushing Beat, aka Rival Turf, for $10.78. But then I set my sights on the Final Fight games, and while the first game is a classic, I opted to go for Final Fight 2. It's definitely a worthy follow-up to the original game with great graphics and sound, classic beat-em-up gameplay, and unlike the first entry, it does feature 2-player co-op. I'd say the characters, settings, and soundtrack aren't quite as iconic as the original, but this is still a great beat-em-up, and at only 968 yen, you really can't go wrong with this one. Now we're looking for a good puzzle game, and while there are plenty available for the Super Famicom, I immediately went with my first choice, which was Puyo Puyo 2. If you've never played a Puyo Puyo game, you've really been missing out on some serious fun. It's a classic color matching style puzzle game that encourages you to rack up the biggest combos possible in order to create a lot of chaos for your opponent who's also trying to do the same to you. This game only gets better if you've got someone to play against, and you might know it better as Kirby's Avalanche or Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine if you've ever played either one of those. And at a mere 550 yen, this game is a no-brainer. Finally, to wrap things up, I wanted to pick up a good fighting game and first consider the obvious choice of Street Fighter II, which is very common and affordable, whether it's original, turbo, or super, but then I thought, why not an anime licensed fighter to keep things interesting? I considered first the prettiest of fighters, Sailor Moon S, or Dragon Ball Z games like Super Butoden 2, which is fun, or Hyper Dimension, which is also very fun, but a bit pricier. Finally, I settled on the Namco-developed Yu Yu Hakusho 2. This is a game, basically, if you like Street Fighter 2, you'll probably like this one because it plays more or less the same with the same basic control scheme, special moves, and super attacks. You get a variety of characters to choose between, taken from the first half of the Yu Yu Hakusho anime series. The controls are fairly smooth, the gameplay is fun, and the graphics and sound are both pretty good. And if you're a fan of the anime, you'll enjoy this game just that much more, and at only 308 yen, it's the most affordable game we're picking up today, and definitely worth every yen.
Now you're playing with power, superpower.
Alright, so now we're safely, comfortably inside of Tokyo Video Gamers, enjoying some beer. My favorite time of day. And we've got the beginnings of our nice little Super Famicom collection here, and it didn't really cost us all that much. So to recap, our first party Nintendo game, we got Yoshi's Island, amazing, one of the best games on the console really, 418 yen, that's dirt cheap. Our non-first party platformer, we got Go-Go Akman 2, fantastic game, very fun, 858 yen, not too shabby. For our fighting game, we got a copy of Yu Yu Hakusho 2, great game, one of my favorite anime of all time, and it's 308 yen, dirt cheap. For our beat 'em up, ended up going with Final Fight 2, again another amazing Capcom beat 'em up, 2-player action, 968 yen. Not too shabby. For our puzzle game, we ended up going with Super Puyo Puyo 2 for 550 yen. This game is incredibly fun. If I'm not mistaken, this was adapted into Kirby's Avalanche. It was either this or the first one, but if you like Kirby's Avalanche, you're gonna love this game. Good, affordable stuff. The most expensive game we picked up today, and it wasn't even really very expensive, a copy of Poppin' Twinbee. Fantastic shooter by Konami. That only cost $12.98. So not bad there, and we even had some money left over for a bonus game. So I went ahead and picked up Super Bomberman 2. If you've ever played Bomberman, you know these games are awesome. This one's no exception. Really great single player mode where you blow up all kinds of little monsters and then you blow up bosses and everything else. And then of course it's a Bomberman game, so insanely fun and addictive multiplayer.
So, and that was only 418 yen, so we didn't break the bank on that one either. So we got all those games for a grand total of 4,820 yen, which when you carry it over into dollars costs whatever I'm gonna put up on the screen here because I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm thinking it's somewhere in the range of like $45, $44 for 7 really great games that we're gonna go home and we're gonna play, we're gonna have a lot of fun with. So there you go. If you've got a 5,000 yen note in your pocket, you can go into Super Potato and you can get yourself a nice little Super Famicom collection started and go home and start having fun immediately. Anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. Hope you learned something today. And next time you are in Tokyo or in Akihabara, definitely don't be afraid to stop by Super Potato. Yeah, like I said, some of the collector's items in there are going to cost you a few bucks, but if you just want to find some inexpensive, fun games to play, they definitely got them. Again, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.
Let's get scratching.
Hello everybody, Jim here, and I'm coming to you today from the neighborhood of Oizumi Gakuen here in Tokyo. I'm here today to go on a game hunting run. There's a nice big hard off not too far from here, maybe like a 15-20 minute walk, and it's really overcast today. I'm hoping I don't get rained on. I might though. I unfortunately did not bring an umbrella today. Should have checked the forecast. So we're gonna go for a walk, we're gonna go hunt for some games, but first, there's something very cool about Oizumi Gakuen that I wanna show you, so let's go check that out. This is the Oizumi Anime Gate, as it says, the Japan animation birthplace. So here it is, the Anime Gate, the gate to the world of Japanese anime, with lots of cool bronze statues of classic anime characters, and a history lesson sort of Toei animation properties. This is here because there's actually, I think the original Toei animation studio is only a short walk from here, and there's even like a museum there that you can go and check it out. But this is sort of like recognized as the home of the original birth of Japanese anime, Toei animation, stuff like Astro Boy and old Osamu Tezuka stuff, White Lion, things like that. It all started right here, and a bunch of your favorites like Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon and all that stuff was animated here in Oizumi. So if you're in the neighborhood, more than just like a good spot to go game hunting, this is like kind of a historic place for anime fans. So if you're here in town, go to the animation studio, check out their museum, and get a little bit of a history lesson, a little bit of nostalgia for us old school anime fans. It's very cool. Anyway, enough of this. Let's hit the road, let's go for a nice walk, and let's go hunt for some video games. Should be fun. Let's do it. So here we are, hard off, off house combination. Pretty cool. I haven't been here in a few years, so I'm pretty sure the last time I was here I got a ton of games, so I'm hoping it's still as well stocked as it was back then. So hope you enjoyed the little walk over here, nice and leisurely stroll. Took about 20 minutes from Oizumi Gakuen Station, so not too much of a walk. But let's get inside, let's dig around through their retro game stash and hopefully come away with a whole lot of games. Let's do it.
exciting, power, and love.
頂点に立つ学校はどこか。ダウンタウン熱血行進曲それゆけ大運動会。テクノス。
All right, getting started in this lovely hard off with some consoles. They had quite a few, and they're priced pretty good, as you can see here. And they have marked on the price tag here. They actually had a 3-month warranty on these, so that's pretty awesome. As we take a look at a 9,900 yen PC Engine deck, so that was greatly overpriced. But the Saturn, the Dreamcast, that's all about right. As is this boxed AV Famicom. Even got a Famicom Mini back there. Some Super Famicoms and N64s. Yeah, warranties in a used goods store like this where stuff is like, 20, 30 years old. That's not so common, but that's greatly appreciated as we look at a lot of Famicom games here. Starting with Macross, I'm going to set that aside. We'll put that in our basket, because I did set myself a nice little basket aside, which we will fill up over the course of the video. And Gradius for 500 yen. With the exchange rate right now, that's fantastic. That's like $4, or less than $4, actually. So yeah, $4 Gradius, I'll take it. And then we've got Sailor Moon R, and I'm just like stacking stuff up at this point. We've got some Mickey Mouse, we've got Yu Yu Hakusho, we've got The Great Battle 4. That's a great game for 1,000 yen. I'll take that. That's like maybe $7, if that. Puyo Puyo 2 Remix. Thank you very much. All these loose carts are pretty reasonably priced, and as I found out later, I took them out of the wrapper, very clean, which was surprising. Rockman X2, that goes home with me. As does Super Bomberman 3. And I think I did end up picking up another Super Bomberman game. There are a ton of Bomberman games on the Super Famicom that were not released for the SNES. So always like to pick those up when I can. Ys 2. For those of you familiar with Ys 1 and 2 on the TurboGrafx and PC Engine. There were Famicom ports made as well, and they're also pretty good. Those soundtracks especially sound really nice coming through a Famicom sound chick. We've even got some nice N64 games here, like some Ganbare Goemon, some Banjo-Tooie, which they call Banjo-Kazooie Daiboken 2, and some Diddy Kong Racing, which is an old favorite of mine. I don't know, I was part of that camp that liked Diddy Kong Racing more than Mario Kart 64. So if you're with me on that one, let me know. We've got all these PS2, PS3, so much of this stuff here. They had way more of this than the, the 8-bit and 16-bit stuff. Here we're looking at racing games like Le Mans, Burnout. Am I saying it right? Le Mans, or is it Le Mans? I don't know. You tell me. But I like that they broke these up by genre. So this says action. So this is the action genre. So you'll dig through here for a bunch of action games, and we've got some Armored Core, which is always a good time. Argos no Senshi, or something, whatever it's called. What is that? That's some game back in the day. I think Rygar. But there's Kamen Rider. We've got Kinnikuman. Those are like 500 yen. So they have a ton of these PS2 games. Most of them are pretty cheap. And I am going to zoom in right here, the fighting section. So these are all fighting games. For 2,000 yen, we've got SVC Chaos. We've got the Vampire Collection. I guess it's like the Vampire Chronicle Collection, but it's got basically all the games you could get on the Switch Capcom fighting bundle recently. They're all in there, as well as Marvel vs. Capcom 2. This one, that went straight into the basket. Gekka no Kenshi 1 and 2. AKA the Last Blade games. Those are excellent, underappreciated Neo Geo fighters. And we have an assortment of Guilty Gear fighters here, including Guilty Gear Isuka, Guilty Gear XX, Accent Core, all that stuff. Those all ended up going into the basket too, as well as some Saint Seiya. There's a couple of those, and they're pretty fun. Highly cinematic fighting games. Some Hajime no Ippo, aka I think Victorious Boxers. And of course some Dragon Ball Z. Wouldn't be a complete game hunting video without some DBZ thrown in there. And we come down a little further here to a modest little selection of PS1 games, as well as like some Saturn and Dreamcast and things like that. So all the jewel case stuff down here. Again, not quite as abundant as I remember it being from a few years ago, but Samurai Spirits for 500 yen. That's another one that ended up going home with me. And what else? We have some Super Robot Tyson. Those are fun. And this here, I believe this is Shiritsu Justice Gakuen, but essentially it's Rival Schools 2, or kind of like Rival Schools 1.5. It's between the original and the Project Justice that was not released outside of Japan. Mr. Domino, that's fun as well. And as you can see, I left Rival Schools kind of like peeking out because I wanted to make sure I came back for that one. Rockman 5 Complete Works. All of the Complete Works games are great. They released all of the original 6 Rockman games on the PlayStation with all kinds of bonuses and remix soundtracks and cool stuff like that, which I believe they bundled them all together eventually for a GameCube release. And Sakura Taisen 2 Hanagumi Taisen, aka Sakura Wars, and Shinmu for 500 yen. And it comes with the Shinmu Jukebox, which is a soundtrack CD with all the music from all of the bars and other various little night spots in the game. So that's very cool. Rockman X4, somewhere at like 3,000 yen, so like 24 bucks for Rockman X4. And we've even got some 3DO games. We've got like 4 3DO games. I don't come across these very much. Burning Soldier, okay. Like I had a 3DO at one point with like 20 some odd games for it. Most of them garbage. But, still sometimes kind of entertaining to just see what the hell they got on there. And we have some cases here, the dreaded cases. Some more expensive games, like they've got Time Gal, they've got X-Men versus Street Fighter. Some other cool stuff in here. Code Veronica for some reason. Maybe it's like factory sealed. And Koro Koro Postonin for like 200 bucks. That's a great game, by the way. But it is one of the more expensive PS1 games. And to wrap things up, they had a whole bunch of boxed Game Boy and GBA and other stuff just hanging on like an end cap here. I believe that's what they're called. If I recall back from my retail working days, an end cap. So they got all this stuff here, including some GameCube games, which are nice. I don't know why those are particularly expensive. And a lovely boxed copy of Rockman 5 on the Famicom. My favorite of the bunch, by the way. And some loose copies of Gradius 2, which is a little up there. They've got it priced at over 2,000 yen. And Sparkster, sequel to Rocket Knight Adventures, if I'm not mistaken. And even the little-known JoJo's Bizarre Adventure RPG that was released on the Super Famicom. And another case here that, in particular, they had some really fantastic Super Famicom games in there, including Violinist of Hamelin, the Super Back to the Future 2, Umihara Kawase, which I almost bought, but then realized that the box was damaged and there was also no manual. So I passed on that because it was only like 50 bucks, but I opted out. If I'm going to get a boxed copy, I'm going to want it to be complete. And some boxed Famicom stuff here too, including Neketsu Kakudo Densetsu. It is a 2-on-2 fighter featuring the various characters from the Kunio-kun series, aka River City Ransom, all that good stuff. Dragon Quest 3, and this is really, we just kind of want to like marvel at some of this box art. It's really, really good. Famicom and Super Famicom box art. Can never go wrong with that. And a whole bunch of GameCube games, including some Mario Party and Mario Kart Double Dash, which is, I don't know, it's probably like my second favorite Mario Kart game. It's awesome. Kirby 64 with a blinding pink box. To look into it for too long is to sear your retinas. And Wave Race 64. Another absolute classic. And as you can see, that various boxed N64 games and Super Famicom games, including this Poppin' Twinbee for 1,500 yen. It's 1,650 after tax. Fantastic top-down shooter by Konami. If you've never played that one, I'd highly recommend picking that up. We just have so much good stuff here, including Super Bomberman 4. Yes, 4. I think there's a 5th one as well. So yeah, like I said, lots of Super Bomberman games that were only released on the Super Famicom, as well as this. I believe this is Kirby. Was it Kirby Superstar or something like that, where there's a whole bunch of little Kirby games in a single cartridge. And then this was a definite pickup, Tetris Battle Gaiden. Probably my favorite Tetris game ever. One of my favorite puzzle games in general, really. And they were selling it boxed for next to nothing. It was really cheap. It was like, I don't know, with exchange rate, like $10 or something. So I was definitely going to get that. As we move on, not too much more of interest. There was a whole lot of kind of like DS, Wii, stuff like that. Even some cool old Switch stuff, Wii stuff in the case. But that's not really what I'm looking for these days. Anyway, I did, eventually go back to all the shelves, pick up a bunch of games, and we're going to go and take a look at a few of them in just a second. So let's take a little break. We'll be right back.
いや、そうも知らないんだ。
ビヨビヨね。ビヨビヨなんでしょ。
運転手さん言ってください。
ビヨビヨなのね。
そう、ビヨビヨです。プレイステーション1周年記念 RPG ビヨンドザビヨンド。
プレイステーション。
Alright, hey everybody, Jim back here at my humble abode here in Tokyo. Just got back from Oizumi Gakuen, and it was a pretty good game hunt today. That particular hard off wasn't quite as flush with games as I remember it being from like a few years ago. I could swear like a few years ago there were like way more games. But still today we picked up a lot of good stuff, a lot of quality titles. Picked up about 30 games altogether today for the Famicom, Super Famicom, PS2, PS1, DS. Picked up a lot of really good stuff. Final price today came out to 28,385 yen, which I think for 30 games, 30 really good games, especially with the exchange rate being what it is right now, I think that's pretty good. We picked up some really good stuff today, and I think this was a pretty fair deal. So, like I said, picked up about 30 games today, but I picked out 3 that I think are kind of like the finds of the day today. So, first up, I got a complete copy of Tetris Battle Gaiden, and this is a great game. If you're not familiar with it, it's one-on-one competitive Tetris where you got a bunch of wacky characters to play with. It's similar to like a Puyo Puyo game where it's one-on-one, and each character, they have different special abilities that you can use to kind of like derail the other player's game. So it's very fun, it's very competitive and addictive, and this is actually probably my favorite Tetris game ever. And even boxed like this, complete with everything, this was only about, I want to say like $12 or something. This was very affordable. I'm really happy to find this in that condition. Also 2 loose carts, but even for loose carts, one, they're super clean, and these games are not terribly common, so I picked them up for, I want to say like maybe like 10 to 15% less than I usually see them go for. First up, this is The Violinist of Hameln. This is a really fun, unique platformer made by Enix. So you play as the violinist, and you also play as his, you have a little assistant that kind of follows you around. And sort of the gimmick is you find all these like different animal suits that you can put her in to give her different abilities, and then you use that for, to reach platforms and get around obstacles and things. There's a little bit of combat as well, but for the most part it's more of like a tricky, almost puzzle platformer type of thing. But it's really fun, great graphics and sound. This is, just one of those great Super Famicom games that wasn't released outside of Japan, but it's awesome. So yeah, Violinist of Hameln, great game. And then this, another one, just like anytime I find this, if the price is decent, I'm going to pick it up. And I think this was like maybe like $16 with exchange rate. It's Gundam Wing Endless Duel. And if you're not familiar with this game, it is a 2D fighter featuring all of the mechs from Gundam Wing. And it's very fun. It plays really well. It's actually one of the better 2D fighters on the Super Famicom. And in terms of like the graphics, I think this is one of the most graphically impressive games on the Super Famicom, and it has a really great soundtrack too. So like Violinist of Hameln, This is just a really amazing game that was just never released outside of Japan at the time. In fact, both this and Violinist of Hameln and Tetris Battle Gaiden, I did a video years ago, my top 10 Super Famicom games left in Japan. All 3 of these games are in my top 10. They're all really good. So yeah, to pick this up, Gundam Wing Endless Duel, to pick this up for, you know, something like 16 bucks, however much it was after exchange rate, I was really happy with that. So anyway, that's it. That's the game hunt for today. Those are my finds of the day again. Picked up probably about 30 games. Had a good time. Hadn't been to Oizumi Gakuen in quite a while, so it was nice to get back there, see all those cool anime bronze statues. Actually want to go back again real soon to go to the Toei Museum there, because there's the Toei Animation Studio, but there's also the museum. So I'd like to go check that out. Anyway, that's it. Hard Off, Game Hunt, Oizumi Gakuen. What did you think of it? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, and while you're at it, maybe like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. I'd surely appreciate it. And until next time, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Goodbye.
Hello everybody, Jim here, and in Akiba today to do a bunch of stuff, whole lot of stuff, busy day. But one thing I thought I would get knocked out first. Had a question recently from a viewer named Anthony, and I hope I'm not butchering this too bad, Ciarochi, or we'll just say Anthony C. Anthony wanted to know if I ever find imported games while I'm game hunting here in Japan. So like stuff from North America, or maybe even PAL region games. And I do occasionally come across imported games. One that springs to mind was, I think I was at a Hard Off out in the middle of, no idea, I don't even remember where I was, but in their junk section, they just had a random Sega Genesis 6-pack just lying in the junk section. And that's just one example. I find imported games every now and then, but while I'm here in Akiba, I can think of at least 2 places I can go without running into people, where I can find quite a few, at least North American games. So we're going to go to those places, and then we're going to go and see if we can't find any more imported stuff at any of the other game shops here. But I think the first place we're going to go to is Trader, and then a little later we'll go to Super Potato, and we'll take a look at some non-Japanese games for a change. So stick around. Hey, new arcade just opened up. Cool. Anyway, it's not what I'm doing right now. Don't get distracted, Jim. Just go get the damn games. All right, here we go.
All right. Let's go hunt for some import games. Actual import games this time. Not those fake ones, because they're not really imports for me, they're imports for you. But we're going to get started at Trader, and they have quite a lot of stuff here. So we're looking at more recent stuff, and I say recent, like Xbox 360, but they also have Switch, things like that. But as you can see, they've got their ESRB on the front, everything's in English. So we've got some American games, like Dead Space. Although that one's not American, I don't think that copy. Ghostbusters, though, is for sure. So this is kind of cool because Xbox 360, they don't exactly fly off the shelves in Japan. So if there's something I want for one of those consoles, not always super easy to find it. Gladiator Sword of Vengeance, which If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that game like super violent? Like that's what it was most known for, was all the dismemberments and stuff like that. Kind of cool, I guess. But you got Skyrim, you got Oblivion, great game, which I have not played in a very long time. Just playing tons of Skyrim and other stuff here, PS3 and various other things, some Call of Duties, and then RPGs and stuff, which is kind of cool because I have played through a number of RPGs in Japanese, but nice to have, you know, English, my mother tongue. Here, these have, I guess, like a PEGI rating on them, or whatever. So I think these are actually PAL. So if you want some PAL format games, Trader has some of those too. So that was Under Night in Birth. We have Resident Evil The Village, rated M for mature. So it's a mix of things. There's PAL, there's North American, all that stuff. Got some Xbox One games here again. It's good to have those imports because not a lot of Xbox stuff really gets released out here. And we have a little something here again. PAL, King of Fighters 15, which I still have yet to play. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm a King of Fighters fan and all, but just haven't tried it yet. Got some North American Switch games like Bloodstained, stuff like that. That's pretty cool. And then coming around stuff that I'd be more interested in, a little bit more on the retro side. Some Game Boy Advance, Dreamcast. It's pretty cool. So some imported Dreamcast stuff. And what else we got here? We have Zany Golf. Okay. Would you like to play some Zany Golf? That's pretty cool though. Captain America and the Avengers for the Sega Genesis, 21,800 yen. So it's like almost 200 bucks. So I mean that's fine. That's a nice enough game and all. I guess it was not released on Japanese Mega Drives, but yeah, I wouldn't be paying that. Phantom 2049 for like 3,000 yen. So that's like 20 some odd bucks. And what do we have here? We have a little bit of pole position. Isn't that lovely? So this was what kind of surprised me, actually. I never really bothered to check these old imports and stuff. But finding stuff like this, Atari 2600 games, Vanguard. We're going to be seeing more of this stuff. We're going to be seeing Atari and Intellivision and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Boxing, auto racing, space battle, and yeah, here we go. We've got some boxed Intellivision games. Snafu, that's pretty cool. This totally surprised me. I never look in these sections because I'm just not in the market for imported games. Astro Smash, again, pretty cool. So yeah, I never noticed in all the times I've come into Trader that they had Intellivision and Atari 2600 games. You want to play some backgammon? I do not even know how to play backgammon, so that game wouldn't be of much use for me. But as you can see, more stuff down here, more Atari 2600, other various things. So that's cool. That genuinely surprised me, and it even says in English, pre-owned import video games. So they know who they're catering to. They're catering to us English-speaking types. We move on from Trader. Going over to that old standby Super Potato. Here we have a nice display case with a bunch of imports, starting with a copy of Galactic Attack for the Sega Saturn, which is cool. It's also known as Layer Section, a game I love a lot. But we got WrestleMania, or Wrestling Challenge, Silver Surfer, so we got some NES stuff, Game Boy Advance. We've even got some Dreamcast, PlayStation, Blade. If you want to play some Blade, there's only one way, because I guess Blade did not get a Japanese release for some reason. Maybe they're not so big on Wesley Snipes in Japan. I don't know. How could you not be, though? Wesley Snipes, right? He was like king of the 90s. We got some SNES, Operation Thunderbolt. Expensive game, though. A little bit of Atari Jaguar in there. Even some Game Boy and more SNES. Spike McFang. Can't go wrong with Spike McFang. Even though you could just buy the Super Famicom version, I guess, like, for less. Like, so, I don't know. I don't know what the market for, like, import game collecting is in Japan. Like, if Japanese gamers actually want these games. And then over here, this kind of tucked away in the corner, next to the Merch, the Wonder Swan, the Bandai Pladia games. stuff I'm not typically interested in. More imports like Spot for $21.78, so for under 20 bucks. Pick up this NES cart. And again, I was surprised to find Sword Quest for $10.78 for the Atari 2600, so that's cool. We got some Smurfs for the ColecoVision and Hangman, so there you go. And then we got some more box games. Atari Video Computer System Game Program, Starship. So there's that. That's cool. So again, this is like a section of this shop that like I never, have come to because I don't have much call to pick up like Wonder Swan or Bandai Palladium games. So I never noticed that they had these games here. Street Racer, a little bit of NBA Hang Time just there. So they have some sports games over here, other various things. So I'm actually discovering all of this for the first time. I'm like, holy crap, this is here? I almost left the store without even checking this aisle because I thought it was just a bunch of t-shirts and stuff. But not so. It's not just t-shirts and keychains and Wonder Swan games. There's Madden! Madden 2000, in fact. Recently passed away. R.I.P. John Madden. Boom! Tough acting. Strider for the Master System. Pretty cool. So I think the one and only Master System I came across today. King of the Monsters for the Sega Genesis. And some Sega Sports, NHL, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I've never played like any of the Sega Sports games, I guess. Cat Tracks for the Arcadia. Whatever the hell the Arcadia is, but that has Japanese katakana on it. So, but Intellivision Soccer, Golf, and Space Battle. Did they have Space Battle at Trader? I don't know. But again, that's cool. Like boxed Intellivision games, and they're actually in pretty good shape. So for games that are like older than I am, I was kind of impressed by how good a shape they are. Retro 7 or something or other. It's marked as being new. And then this I thought was kind of fun. Just some random stuff. BMX, Triple X. Keep it dirty, it says. So alright. A game I've never played. Was never particularly interested. Final Fantasy VII for some odd reason. Frogger 2. Now we're getting to the good stuff. Even though I believe that one is also PAL. Some SpongeBob. NASCAR racing. Factory Sealed. Alright, so somehow that made its way over here and just no one's bothered to buy it or open it. I don't think NASCAR is terribly popular in Japan. And then there's a copy of R4 for no apparent reason because that's not an international copy, just a Japanese copy. The Sopranos, Road to Respect. I don't know anything about that game. Dragon Ball Z, Budokai 2, which I like a lot. I like the little board game story mode it has in there. That's pretty fun. And Reservoir Dogs, the game, which I think they got a bunch of the voice actors for that. And I don't think I ever played the game, though. I know that Mr. Blue, there's a section where you play as Mr. Blue, so that mystery gets solved. Like, what happened to Mr. Blue? Well, he got shot in the face or something. I don't know. But we're going to go now to our last destination for the day. And that is Retro Game Camp. And this is a shop I typically avoid because it's pretty expensive, even when compared to the other places. But look what we have here. So we have an Atari Jaguar, which I'm guessing is the Japanese one. It's like $600, but the games they had for it were actually American games. So we have a Flip Out rated KA, and we have, if I can ever get it, what is it? Zoop, another KA game for like $2,800. Get a complete copy of Zoop. So the only two actual like boxed Jaguar games, or the only Jaguar games they had at all, were both American Jaguar games. I'm guessing the Jaguar didn't get much love in Japan. Not that it did anywhere else, really. And we have some other cool stuff here. Bart's Nightmare, Super Mario Kart, Super Street Fighter 2. They just have, yeah, the North American versions of these games just lying around. And then there's a bunch of SNES games all stacked up back there, including X-Zone and, of course, Barbie, which is, you know, the most important. Even some North American controllers and SNES mouse. And again, some NBA Live 97, finally. I get to complete my collection of NBA Live games. even some GBA, other various things. And I guess, well, we got some NES games here, and I think even those Neo Geo Pockets back there. Maybe those are like North American versions or something. Because I had a Neo Geo Pocket at one point. Yeah, English games, it even says. So PS2 and other various things, Game Gear. So yeah, interestingly enough. Yeah, even some other box stuff down there. What is that? That looks like it could be like in television or something. I don't know. Not too familiar with those. But anyway, yeah, so lots of stuff. Lots of imported stuff, which is pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that. Again, I never actually look at any of this stuff, so it was surprising to me. So I appreciate getting that question, motivating me to get off my ass and make this damn video. Anyway, that should just about do it. I think we're done, so I'm going to get out of here. We can go outside on the street and have some final words.
Okay, so that's it. I think that's enough. I made my point. Retro Game Camp, Trader, Super Potato, all places where you can find imported games from North America and from Europe, at least here in Akihabara. And like I said, on past game hunting trips to hard offs and book offs and random areas I've visited, I've come across the odd import game or two. But yeah, you know, it's a retro game collecting market out here, and just like there's a market for import games in the United States and in Europe, there's a market for those kinds of things here. People that want, you know, to pick up games for the NES or maybe older consoles, like you saw some stuff for Intellivision and Atari. I guess consoles of that generation weren't really so prevalent out here, so importing is your best bet. Anyway, thanks for that question, Anthony C. I hope you enjoyed the video, and same goes for the rest of you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions or you'd like to see more stuff like this, let me know down in the comments, and I will be happy to oblige. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and take care. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Hello everybody, Jim here, and hey, have a look at this. It was a bright, beautiful, sunny day in Akihabara, Tokyo, Japan, and what we're doing right now is we're gonna go walk around to a few different game shops, and we're gonna look at some of their retro game consoles, and we're gonna get started with Trader. So we're gonna look at a bunch of consoles, bunch of prices, and should be pretty fun. We're starting out, we have this PC Engine, amazing console, one of my favorite retro consoles, but it's just a little console by itself, still in the neighborhood of $100. And then a kind of busted Dreamcast, and then we got some Saturns here, the white model, which I say kind of loosely because they're pretty yellowed. I'm lucky to have one that's still not too terribly yellowed, and a solid gold PS2, and they're selling that for chump change. It's literally made of gold. Can you believe it? We got some gray Saturns as well. Those are cool. A PC Engine Duo R, that is 26,800 yen, which with exchange rate right now, what is that? That's probably in the neighborhood of like $220, something like that. And here, a Sega SG-1000 Model 2, which is cool. I've actually still never in my life played a Sega SG. I've never played a Mark III. I've never played a Master System even. Here we have the twin Famicom, the one that I like a lot. It's 23,800 yen. This is the one with the turbo controllers, which is awesome. The other two color variants do not have turbo controllers. It's only that one with the blue and green. As we look at some boxed Mega Drive Model 2s, which are awesome. The Model 2 is my personal favorite. I like that more than the Model 1. It's kind of the one I mostly grew up with. By the time the Model 2 came out, they were cheaper, so most of the kids I knew who had Genesis had Model 2s. Here's a Duo RX, 38,600 yen, and it is boxed. And that's, in the neighborhood, like a little over $300, I guess. For a boxed Duo RX, I'd say that ain't bad. And then you can see they got a bunch of loose stuff too. That's pretty cool. But here we are in Super Potato. Way more consoles on offer in the good old Super Potato. So we have a big stack of Famicoms here. These are not modded at all. And so it has a little warning on it for those of you who might not know. It doesn't work with AV cables, but they have some here that have been remodeled that use AV out, and they're 10,000 yen, so they're probably about, I don't know, like a little over $70 for a modified Famicom. There's some Famicom disc consoles. These are some of the other twin Famicom models. The solid red one, which again looks pretty cool. It's very fiery red, but does not have the turbo controllers. So I was not my preference. And some boxed Famicoms as well, which is pretty cool. Nice little box to have on your shelf. And then boxed twin Famicom, another boxed Famicom there. That one actually quite a lot nicer. It's still white, it's not so yellowed. Which the yellowing, I guess, is from, I mean, it's got to be like from the smoking or maybe just exposure to light over time. We got some loose Super Famicoms here and some N64s, including a solid gold N64. How do you like that? Lots of color variants, but look at all these 64s. This is a big old pile of 64s, and then a bunch of GameCubes as well. All of them, though, the Orange Spice GameCube. That's $93.28. So those are like, yeah, those are also like in the neighborhood of $70 for the Orange Spice GameCubes. I just found that a little odd that they just had a whole bunch of that specific color. But as we move right along, we've got some other stuff here. We got some Wiis and Wii U's, which I don't think are in terribly high demand. They're pretty cheap. I haven't played a Wii in I don't know how long. I've never even played a Wii U, actually. But I do love my good old Switch. That thing is just gets a lot of playtime at my home. We got the Model 1 Mega Drive, which, you know, cool looking in its own right. I'm not gonna knock it. I think it's still a nice looking console. But yeah, the Model 2, so sleek, so sexy. Oh, it's too sexy, don't do it. I like that Model 2 Mega Drive. Even though it doesn't have the headphone jack. Who the hell needs a headphone jack, really, with the Mega Drive? Here we have some Dreamcasts. They're like 87 something, so probably for about $60 you can pick up a Dreamcast like that with a controller and some hookups. Here we have another very yellowed Saturn. That's 76, 78. So that's like 50 something dollars, I think. Not too bad. And then this, just a loose Master System deck. No hookups, no controllers, nothing. So, I mean, I don't know, overpriced for something you can't even play right away. We got the another one, SG-1000 Model 2. That's pretty cool. And then, this is cool as well, a Sega Mark III. I think, you know, if I really start my collecting ways hardcore again, I'm probably going to go back to some of this stuff. Some of the older Sega stuff. Maybe even go back as far as like Intellivision, Atari, things like that. Go really old school. Not back to just 8-bit, but even further back. And a nice box Dreamcast. Hello. The final place we're going to stop in at, Retro Game Camp. Mainly just because it's like super cramped in here. I don't come in here that often. The Core Graphics, $16,800 for a Core Graphics. Good lord. That's over $100. That's probably in the neighborhood of like $120. And then there's the Core Graphics 2. Which, you know, they're cool looking and everything, but they've got a Duo R right there. That's for some 20, what was that, like 29 something? So the consoles here, more expensive than they were at Trader, that's for sure. Here we have a box PC Engine, and man, it's in really good condition there. That is 19,800 yen, so that's probably like $150. So I don't know, for a boxed PC Engine, like kind of a collector's item. How badly do you want a box on your shelf? Here, boxed Duo R, that one also in the neighborhood of like $300, I'd say. So There you go. Dual R's are cool. That's what I have. Play all your Hue cards, your PC Engine CD games. Don't need kind of expansions or anything. And then we got some Model 1 Mega Drives. Again, more expensive here than at Trader and at Super Potato as well, by like a considerable margin. And then we have this boxed Mega Drive too, everything in B condition for 19,000 some odd yen. So again, that's like 160 bucks or so. Yeah, that's the other reason I don't come to Retro Game Camp too much, even compared to Super Potato, which a lot of people are like, hey, Super Potato, that's a tourist trap. That stuff's so expensive. You know, come into a Retro Game Camp, have a look around. We'll see if you don't change your tune. A boxed Sega Mark III, though, that is pretty cool. Where the price is on that, I don't know. I can't see. Oh, well. I'm sure it was not cheap. But that is pretty cool. Way down here, which this is tough for me. I have to bend down to look at this stuff. And I'm not a short fella, so it kind of is hard on my knees and my back. But the Sakura Wars pink Sega Dreamcast, that's pretty cool. We got some Saturns here, including this white one. I'll go ahead and close that for you. Don't mind if I do. A little gold sticker on it saying they replaced the battery in there. So that's pretty cool. That's a service they provide. So you don't have a dead battery. You can actually, like, save some games onto there. Don't need to use like a memory backup or anything. And some Dreamcast as well. 6800. So I don't know, like 50 bucks for a Dreamcast. So there you go. And then over here, kind of the last little bit we're going to take a look at. We got some GameCubes. It's GameCube, underappreciated console. I like it a lot. And even down here, we're going to finish off with Neo Geo CDX, 39,800 yen. So that's probably about $330. Pretty cool. That's some consoles. Hope you enjoyed looking at them. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
遊びのビーチに魂込めた一人の男が今日も行くセガタ三四郎セガタ三四郎セガサタン四郎とや
Hello everybody, Jim here, and today I am in Akihabara and I'm in front of this fine game shop called Trader, and what we're going to do today is we're going to try to get a nice little Sega Saturn collection started for under $50, which I think should be pretty possible because with the exchange rate right now, yen to US dollars, it's actually pretty good. So what we want to get is at least one first-party Sega game, one racing game, one fighting game, one puzzle game, and probably the most difficult of all, one shoot 'em up. There aren't a whole lot of cheap shoot 'em ups on the Saturn, but we're going to do our best. And if we have some money left over, we're going to pick up a nice little bonus game as well. So let's get inside Trader, have a look at their Sega Saturn games, and get our collection started, again, for under $50.
Hi, I'm Yuri
どう
Geller.
も、ユリゲラーで
Now,
す。
I'll send a
これからあ
telepathic
なたに
message
テレ
to
パ
you.
シーを送ります。サウンドノベル第3弾、街、
Sega
セガサ
Saturn.
ターン。
Okay, so first we get started with what I knew would be the most expensive game, and that's the shoot 'em up, and there was a lot to choose from, like Gunbird here, which I personally love, or games like Game Tengoku, the Game Paradise, which is a very fun shooter, or either the Gradius or Parodius Deluxe packs, which are awesome, but all of these games would have been at least half of our budget, and as for games like Metal Black, just forget about it, because you'll be paying $65 at a minimum for that, but all hope was not lost, because for a very reasonable price, we found a nice copy of Macross Do You Remember Love? This is a game that was released in 1997 to tie in with the 15th anniversary of the original Macross animated movie, and as such, it features a ton of FMV cutscenes, both from the original film and new animation made especially for this game, so much in fact that this game actually comes on 2 discs, which is highly unusual for a shoot 'em up. The gameplay itself, while honestly not holding a candle to some of my favorites on the Saturn, like Layer Section or Dodonpachi, it is still pretty fun, as you might expect. You'll be controlling the iconic Valkyrie transforming ship that can alternate between a fighter jet, a walker jet hybrid, and a humanoid mech suit, with each form controlling different and having different weapon systems. Essentially though, you have 2 main weapons, your standard Vulcan machine gun, and a barrage of lock-on missiles. Enemies very often will populate the background and foreground, where they can only be damaged by missiles, while anything in front of you can obviously be gunned down. While not the best shooter on the platform, I'd say it's still very enjoyable. It's fun, fairly challenging, but not frustratingly so, and it features some decent visuals, lots of cutscenes to enjoy, and a great soundtrack inspired by the anime as well. And if you're a Macross fan, you'll like this game just that much more. And at only 1,480 yen, it's probably the most affordable shooter you're going to find for the Saturn. Next up, we want a fighting game, and there are plenty to choose from on the Saturn. And I first considered Cyberbots, a 2D mech fighter from Capcom, which is priced pretty well, but a bit much for today's purpose. The same can be said for games like X-Men vs. Street Fighter and Samurai Spirits. Not bad prices really, but not quite what we're looking for. Of course, they also had games like Groove on Fight and Street Fighter 03 that are awesome, but also really expensive. Ultimately though, I settled on a very affordable and very fun Capcom classic with Vampire Hunter. If you've never played it before, this is the second game in the much-loved Darkstalkers series, and if you somehow don't know what that is, the easiest way to explain it is it's kind of like Street Fighter with famous movie monsters in place of the World Warriors. It's an incredibly fun game with super smooth controls. In fact, I can recommend any of the Capcom fighters available for the Saturn, and that includes the sequel to this game, Vampire Savior. But if you're shopping on a budget, like we are today, this will definitely give you the most bang for your buck. It's got a great roster of characters to choose from, fantastic visuals and sound design, and again, it's a very fun game that perfectly recreates the original arcade experience. And with that being said, at 780 yen, this game is an absolute steal. Next up, we want to find a good puzzle game, and again, there were a few to choose from. And I first considered Puzzle Bobble 3 a great game and a good price at $14.80, but I ended up going back to my first love, the Puyo Puyo series, with Puyo Puyo Sun. If you're not very familiar with the Puyo Puyo name, you might recognize it better as maybe Kirby's Avalanche or Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which were reskins of classic Puyo Puyo games. The premise here is the same as any other game in the series, just match up Puyos of the same color to clear them from the screen, and by racking up combos, you send junk Puyos to your opponent's side of the screen. The difference here is that as you clear away Puyos, new Sun Puyos will drop in that can be incorporated into combos with any of the other colors, creating the opportunity to score some big points and create a lot of chaos for your opponent. It's everything a good puzzle game should be. Its premise is simple, and the gameplay is fun, competitive, and addictive. Plus, it's a great looking game with some very colorful visuals and an upbeat and catchy soundtrack. It's actually my favorite game in the series, and at only 780 yen, it's a very affordable game right now and worthy of any Saturn collection. Now we want a good racing game, and there were several to choose from, including Toge King the Spirits, which is a decent game, and at only 280 yen, they're practically giving it away, but I really wanted a Sega first-party racer, and I considered Sega Rally, but instead decided to go with arguably the better game, Sega Touring Car Championship. This is a 1996 release that, if you've never played it, is pretty impressive for a 32-bit game in terms of its visuals and its sheer sense of speed, which you didn't get from a lot of racers at the time. This game runs really smooth. It's sort of a sequel to Sega Rally, I guess, and it has quite a lot in common with that game, namely that you'll be doing quite a bit of drifting and tight cornering while trying to maintain as much speed as possible. The controls take a bit of time to get used to, but once you do, this becomes an extremely fun racer, and the Saturn version even has some bonuses that aren't included in the arcade version, such as additional tracks and car customization options. There aren't a ton of racing games on the Saturn to choose from, but what is available is generally really good, and that certainly applies to Sega Touring Car Championship. Nice graphics and sound, and fast, fun gameplay make this a game that is a great early addition to any Saturn collection, and at only 780 yen, you really can't go wrong with this one. Finally, we're looking for a proper first-party mascot game, and of course, my first instinct was to reach for the Sonic games, so first I considered a copy of Sonic R, which admittedly is not a very good game, but for whatever reason, I kind of like it anyway, and I considered a copy of Sonic Jam, which is a great compilation of the 16-bit Sonic games with some nice bonuses thrown in, but both games were a bit more than we wanted to spend today, so I went with a different Sega mascot altogether and picked up a copy of Nights into Dreams. I don't think this game needs much explanation, but in case you're not familiar with it, this is a 1996 release that was developed by Sonic Team, and it has you playing as the title character Knights. You'll be flying around in 7 different stages where the objective is to collect a certain number of the blue orbs to destroy a strange contraption, and the faster you do this, and the more rings you can manage to fly through, the higher your score will be at the end of the stage, where you can then fight a boss monster and move on to the next stage. It's an exceedingly simple concept, but it makes for a very fun and unique gaming experience, and I really like this game, and I'd honestly love to see a new Knights game someday. Also, the visuals are really colorful and creative, very nice looking game for its time, and the soundtrack is excellent as well. Pretty much what you'd expect from Sonic Team, who were on a real hot streak at the time. And at only 880 yen for such a great game, you can't do much better than that. And this is almost an essential addition to any Sega Saturn collection. And with that, we have all of the games we came here for, but did we have enough money left over for a bonus game? Let's head to the bar and find out. Alright, now, done with all the game hunting stuff. Here, safely tucked away in Tokyo Video Gamers, my home away from home. Having a beer, enjoying the end of the day. Cheers to you. And we got us a nice big stack of Sega Saturn games here, the beginnings of a great Sega Saturn collection. So what do we get? Our first party game, we got Nights into Dreams, classic game, only 880 yen, very affordable indeed. For even less money, for our fighting game, we picked up Vampire Hunter, classic by Capcom, great game, still super affordable, 780 yen, even with the spine card and everything. Very affordable game. For our racing game, also for 780 yen, we got Sega Touring Car, very good, very fun game. Good stuff there. Classic racing action. Also for 780 yen, are you sensing a theme here? Our puzzle game, we picked up Puyo Puyo Sun. I'm a huge Puyo Puyo fan. This is actually my favorite in the series. Again, complete, spine card, everything, super cheap. Our shoot 'em up. This was, as you saw, the most difficult to find. Shooters on the Saturn tend to be worth more than the other genres of games just because they're in high demand. But I did manage to find Macross Do You Remember Love for $14.80. That's a great deal on this game. Again, complete, spine card, everything. Great price on that. And we had some money left over. We picked up a bonus game, cheapest of all, 380 yen, almost nothing, picked up a copy of Virtua Fighter Remix. For those of you who don't know, when Virtua Fighter was originally released with the Saturn, it wasn't ported especially well. So Sega went back, updated it, updated the graphics, the controls, the sound, everything, made it miles better than the initial release, and then put it out as Virtua Fighter Remix. And a pretty damn good way to play the original Virtua Fighter, if you ask me. Like it a lot. And again, for 380 yen, it costs almost nothing. And so we got our half a dozen Sega Saturn games for a grand total of 5,080 yen, which, if my math is correct, is right around $44. So I think $44, half a dozen really good Sega Saturn games, that's a pretty good deal. So, with that being said, thank you everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have a beer, drink it. Let me know what you think of these games. And if you're getting a Sega Saturn collection started, what are some of the first games you'd like to have in it? And until next time, take care everybody. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then. Goodbye. Hello everybody, Jim here, and I've just returned home from another game hunting trip, and this time I didn't have to go too far. I kind of stayed in central Tokyo today, but I went to a pretty cool little hard off not too far from Meguro, and they didn't have a ton of games, but what they did have was pretty cool. They had Famicom, Super Famicom, even some Famicom Disc, PlayStation, even some modern stuff, and a bunch of consoles too. So I did end up coming away with some very cool retro games today. So you get to see that in the video, and stay tuned for the end of the video where I will show you what my finds of the day were. But with that being said, let's go game hunting.
Go for it, man!
Hello everybody, Jim here, and today I've just gotten off the train at a station called Musashi, Koyama. I've actually never been to this particular area before, but it's right near Meguro, which is a place I've gone to a few times. But Google Maps says that there is a hard off about a 7-minute walk from the station. So we're gonna go check that out. Usually I have to go way out to like West Tokyo or some other prefecture to find a decent hard off, but I took a look at the pictures on Google Maps. This one looks like it should be pretty cool. Plenty of games to dig through. I'm gonna go ahead and put a link in the description below to the Google Maps location in case anybody ever wants to find this place. But with that being said, let's go for a nice brisk little walk and go do some game hunting. Here we go.
Gotta give him, the funky rhythm, Let me take you on a trip. Let me take you on a ride.
All right, so it should be right around here. It's cool. It's kind of like little covered kind of mall area. Where are you, hard off? Oh, I see it. It's just down the street here. This is kind of cool. Like I've been to other kind of like similar, I don't know, like, can you call it a mall? It's a little shopping area. It's like enclosed, but it's sort of like merged with the sidewalk and the streets. Kind of busy today. But there's the object of our desire. It is the hard off. So they got all that stuff. And they got junk. Oh, I love junk. All right, let's do this.
Heart of hunting time. Good stuff. Let's go.
俺たちの熱い戦いがファミコンになった。初めての動くシミュレーションバトル。ペガサス流星剣。ツイントセイヤ黄金伝説バンダイから。
All right. Getting started in this rather modest, quaint little hard-off, actually, as we'll see as we go along. We start with this end cap they had here, where they actually had the bulk of their retro games, not including the junk section. Here we have Cosmic Fantasy 3 for the PC Engine and some Virtua Fighter. So that's kind of the gist as far as like PC Engine, Sega Saturn. They didn't have much of that. What they did have was plenty of Famicom games here, including Makaimura, Ghost and Goblins, Sky Kid. This I thought was pretty cool. Power Blazer, I think is that what it says? Power Blazer or Power Blader? It's Power Blade on the NES. It's like 3,000 yen. Power Blazer. And Bomberman 2, some other cool stuff. And then Tiny Toon, here they just call it Tiny Toon Adventures 2. Something or other. I think it's the one in Wacky Land. We play all the Wacky Land stuff. Here they actually had some cool Famicom disc games that I ended up picking up and knocking stuff off the shelf. See, I hate when the games are all set up like this. They hang from those little tabs and it's hard to get stuff off there. But they had it's a Bio Miracle World Bokute Upa, the Konami game where you're the little baby with the rattle, and they had that for like less than $10. And then what is that one? Bubble Bobble? Yeah, Bubble Bobble. So they had Bubble Bobble and Bio Miracle World Oopa, so I picked up both of those. Chrono Trigger boxed, pretty cool. Some Ultraman, and some other various things. Super Mario RPG. Hard to see a lot of prices on these, again, because they're on these little hang tabs, and that they just drive me crazy. You got to pull them off the shelf like this. But Ranma, Rockman Soccer, Mystic Quest, and Ryuko no Ken, aka The Art of Fighting, and even a couple of box Famicom games here, although the box was super ratty for that Kirby. And some Yoshi's Cookie, Donkey Kong 3, Mahjong, not too terribly interested in that. Super Donkey Kong 2, though, that's always nice. Dragon Quest 6 with its beautiful box art. Mario Kart, always a classic, but again, such a pain in the arse. Super Puyo Puyo, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. If you can actually see it, filming these with one hand, kind of tough. And there I am knocking stuff off the shelf, which is hard not to do when you're trying to rifle through these with one hand. Mario Kart, Super Street Fighter 2, which I like a lot, and some Parodius for you for something like, what was that, 2,500 yen or so? So like maybe like 20, in the neighborhood of $20. Not too bad for a little Parodius there. I can't complain. More loose Super Famicom. Including, I thought this was great. They had a copy of, as I destroy it, Super Ginjin 2 for 800 yen. That's a yes, please. AKA Super Bonk 2. The Super Bonk games are great. Bonk in general. Those are some fun games. This, another thing I ended up taking home for like, what is that, like 1,500 yen. Boxed Gradius, which it was marked as having like some, damage to the box, which is to be expected. That game is like 30 years old. No, more than 30 years old. Like 35, 36 years old at this point. Fantasy Zone, also boxed. Very cool. So they didn't have too much on these racks, but what they did have was not bad at all. Some Yu Yu Hakusho 2. And some Ashita no Joe. I haven't actually played that one before. And some loose Super Famicom carts, including Dragon Ball Z Hyper Dimension, which a lot of people say is the best of those 16-bit DBZ games. And they had the Super Butoden games as well as some Ultraman, other cool stuff like that. So I did end up taking home a handful of those games. And now we move on to some consoles here, which they had some good stuff in good condition anyway. There's PS4s, which is Nice, they're selling those for not too much, and they all have warranties on them, so that's nice. This, an original PS1, 3,300 yen. So that's like $25 maybe, and it's complete. It looks nice and clean, and it's got that old school non-dual shock controller, or if you want it boxed, 4,400 yen. So that's, what, $35? That's a steal. 16.5 for a Panasonic 3DO Real FZ10. So it is the top loader 3DO. Very cool. I used to have one of those. 7,700 for this Super Famicom, which that seems a little high to me. That's about $60, but it is complete and nice and clean with 2 controllers. 66, so like $50 for that yellowed Super Famicom. Same for this this nice looking N64 here, the black controller. And directly next to it, pretty much same condition and all that, but with a yellow controller. And then this is kind of cool, the 8-bit compact V2, made by Columbus Circle, which I've, never played with any hardware made by them, but I have played quite a few of their Famicom games that they released. Columbus Circle, they made pretty good Famicom games, so not so bad. 6,600 for this Famicom. Looks like it's in really good condition too, and boxed for 6,600 yen, and for 77 a boxed Super Famicom with the manual. That ain't bad. And then 77 for that one too, even though it's only the one controller and no manual or anything. Other cool stuff here, fight sticks, various things. I'm not a fight stick collector. I know some people have tons of those. I do not. We got some box stuff up there, including PS4s, PS3s, Wii U's, a PS3 featuring, what is that, Papetia or whatever that, what did that say? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. So yeah, bunch of consoles, some accessories here, peripherals, headsets, all that good stuff. Nothing of terrible interest to me except for this. I thought this was pretty cool. This white Neo Geo CD pad, which I'm assuming was meant to be used with the Neo Geo Mini, or I don't know. Maybe you could just use it for anything that takes that kind of that connector there. And then we had some GameCube controllers here, which I wasn't too terribly interested in, but then I saw this, and I was like, good lord. It's by Hori, but look at it's got the blue camouflage pattern. What is this, was there like a No Limit Soldiers edition of the GameCube? Get out of here. Get right out of town. And now we come to kind of like the last part. Like I said, there wasn't too much in here. There was another section right here with PlayStation and PlayStation 2 and PS4 and all that stuff. Team Sonic Racing, which I like a lot. That and Sonic Racing Transformed are both awesome. We got some King of Fighters. Is this 14? KOF 14. Great game, by the way. Really great stuff. I know a lot of fans of that. And then Shenmue 3 Day 1 Edition. I guess someone wasn't too terribly attached to their Day 1 edition of that game. So they turned that into this hard off here. And then this kind of neat Gravity Days. A cool little collector's box with some very spiffy artwork. Gravity Days. Whatever you think of that game, it has some fantastic art direction. We had some PS Vita games, including East whatever Salsetta. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Is that like a reprint of an older game? I'm not sure. And then this was awesome. Gradius 3 and 4. For those of you who don't know, the arcade versions of Gradius 3 and 4 were ported to the PS2, and they are excellent. So that was a definite buy. And what is it? King of Fighters Neo Wave. That's it. Neo Wave. One of those little side King of Fighters games. So that's pretty cool too. We got a very modest little selection of Vita games and then PS1 games as well. Silent Hill, Gundam, whatever the hell it is. Another kind of cool Super Robot Tyson game. Kamen Rider. It's the best for family. That's 1,000 yen. That's like $7. So that ain't so bad. Dino Crisis for just a few bucks. Dino Crisis 2, excuse me, for 500 yen. And this Capcom Generations 5 with the, I guess, all the various versions of Street Fighter 2, which seems like kind of a, I don't know, I guess at the time that would have been pretty cool. Biohazard Gun Survivor, aka I think just Resident Evil Survivor, right? Which was a not liked game when it came out, even though I didn't mind it so much. And Biohazard 2 DualShock version. Again, that's like $7 if you want to pick that up, which I love that game. It's got all, I like all the little additional modes into it, the extreme battle mode and all that good stuff. And then just a whole bunch of random PS1 games. Ooh, some Puyo-San, some kind of extra edition, special edition, I don't know. Tobal number 1, great game. It's another one you can pick up for 500 yen, like, I don't know, $3. That ain't bad. And then Tekken, with its little spine card in there, for 500 yen. Which back in the day, well, I mean, I've been a Tekken fan to this day. But at the time when I first played Tekken, I liked it a lot. I immediately liked it more than Virtua Fighter, and that just kind of carried on throughout my life. Dragon Ball FighterZ, another great game, even though it's, I don't know, those types of arc games, sometimes they're awesome, sometimes not. Belt Action, the Capcom Belt Action, aka the Beat 'em Up Collection. I was really happy to find this. I do like to pick up Switch games for myself, and Puzzle Bobble for friends. That's nice. Actually, I think the company that published this, they sent me some things in the mail. That's where my Bubble Bobble coffee mug came from. They were nice enough to send me that, some knickknacks in the mail. But yeah, what was I saying about Arc Fighters? Like, they're cool sometimes, but at this, when you're playing someone who plays them religiously, and you know, just like the first hit they get in, it's just, they're just gonna chain a combo until you're dead. And it's not so fun after that. It's like fencing. It's like whoever gets that first hit, it's all over. Transformers! Where's Lion when you need them? Why is that in the case? Those aren't terribly rare or anything. Alien 3 on Game Gear. Rockman 6 boxed. That's cool. They also had some Demon's Crest in there, which I kind of just glossed over at the time when I was filming this. But we got some more Game Boy stuff down here. They had some cool stuff. I mean, they got these, you know, random Pokemon games. They got Ranma 1/2. They had Double Dragon, which, yeah, I definitely did pick up. Well, even though it had the, someone's little handiwork on it. And Gremlins 2, which I've played the Famicom version, and I liked it. It's a Sunsoft game, fun little game, so I was thinking maybe someone will enjoy the Game Boy game. And Quarth, another cool little Konami Game Boy game. So I do occasionally get requests for Game Boy games. I like to fulfill those whenever I can. And just, again, a modest little selection of GameCube games here, including some Monkey Ball, some Biohazard 4, is that Star Fox Assault? Alright, sweet deal. And there is a game that was knocked off, but I didn't do it this time. It wasn't me. And it was P and whatever, the kind of rhythm shooting game, whatever the hell it's called. And some N64 games, including some Zelda, some Mario, some Pokemons. Oh, the classics were here. Including some Banjo-Kazooie and some Banjo-Tooie. Even though here they don't call it Banjo-Tooie, that's kind of lame. They just call it Banjo-Kazooie 2 in Japan. And some Mario Kart 64. These are kind of cheap. I said this in one of my previous videos, I'll reiterate. Because some people were, you know, hyping it up in the comments that yes, I prefer Diddy Kong Racing over Mario Kart 64. And this beautiful boxed Hoshino Kirby 64, great game. And that's gonna just about do her, ladies and gentlemen. What did I pick up from this shop? Stick around and find out. Let's go. Alright, there you go. Fun little game hunting trip to Musashi, Koyama, which was right near Meguro. And yeah, that hard off, it wasn't like overflowing with games. But you know, I did find some pretty cool stuff. We're gonna take a look. Actually today I picked up about 20 games varying prices. I actually picked up something for myself that was a little bit higher than what I usually spend on just like a random retro game. But we picked up about 20 games today with a final tally of 22,990 yen. So with the exchange rate, again, being what it is right now, dollars to yen, that is not so bad. And again, that hard off, not the biggest or best I've ever been to, but actually I did really like the area. After I got done with the game hunt, I kind of hung around because they had that like big shopping center with the the canopy over it, so it was like a big pedestrian mall kind of thing. So I ended up hanging out a little longer there. I went to like a hobby off, and I even went had a look at the liquor off. For those of you who don't know, there are the same, I guess, parent company that owns Hard Off and Book Off and stuff. They also have a chain of liquor stores called Liquor Off, which sounds kind of kinky, but they sell booze, okay? Get your mind out of the gutter. Anyway, my finds of the day. What did I pick up today? I got 4 games here, all pretty cool and all reasonably priced as well. So the first thing, I picked up something for myself. This is, I'm gonna be playing this after the camera goes off. All this other stuff is actually going to be packaged up eventually and mailed out to people who subscribe to my Patreon. They get the KidShoryuken Patreon game boxes. So that's all going to go to them after I test it, of course. I'm going to play the games first. It's kind of a nice win-win for me. But yeah, first thing I picked up today for myself, the Capcom Belt Action Collection. Which I hadn't played or picked this up yet. I saw there was like 3,000 yen, which is like, I don't know, like $22 right now. So I was like, definitely I'm going to pick that up because it's got a whole bunch of great beat 'em ups in it. Final Fight, King of Dragons, Captain Commando, Knights of the Round, Tenchio Kurao 2. It says Power Gear, which I forget what the English title was, but it's the big mech beat 'em up, and Battle Circuit, which I don't think I've ever played Battle Circuit, so this is going to be a whole lot of fun. So yeah, the Capcom Belt Action Collection, happy to have that again. This is one that it's just staying with me. That's just for Jim. The rest of these will eventually be going to other people though, and they're pretty damn cool. They're all priced right. For 1,000 yen, like $7, got a nice clean copy of The Great Battle 3. And the Great Battle series, they take on like different genres from one game to the other. I think the most well-known one is Great Battle 5, which is kind of a Wild Guns sort of knockoff, but it features little chibi, super deformed like Gundam and Kamen Rider and Ultraman. And this one is a beat 'em up, but it has like a medieval motif to it. So they're like little knights, and they've got like swords and other medieval weapons. Wow, it was hard to get that word out for some reason. And you're fighting like other little Gundam and Ultraman bad guys and stuff. And they're also like little medieval guys. So yeah, it's very fun. It's just a cool little beat 'em up with a medieval motif featuring super deformed Bandai Presto Bandai characters, whatever the hell. But it's a lot of fun, and for 1,000 yen, I wasn't going to pass this up. So the Great Battle 3, that's a fun game. Someone's going to be happy with that. This, I was really happy to find. It was, how much was this? I forget now. I took the price tag off. But it couldn't have been more than like 12 bucks, 15 bucks, something like that. Which is a great deal. A complete and boxed copy of the original Gradius. And I'm a huge Gradius fan, and I'll play it on pretty much anything I can. The Famicom/NES port, you know, it's not up to snuff for the arcade. It's, you know, the graphics are obviously a big step down. I like the sound though. The sound design for many Konami 8-bit games are going to be great, but you don't get as many options as you do in the arcade. It doesn't matter to me because it's still Gradius and it's still a lot of fun. And honestly, I kind of like the simplicity of this Famicom version. Yeah, it's really great. So I like the simplified graphics and the sound. There's just something about 8-bit Konami games that really does, what's a good euphemism? Turns my crank? I don't know. Yeah, these games get me excited. So yeah, and to find it like complete with manual and everything else for not such a bad price. It was marked down, I think, because they said the box had some damage on it, which is predictable. This game is older than I am, but it's a damn good one. So Gradius for the Famicom, great game. And sticking with Gradius, I found this. I think this was also maybe about 3,000 yen, which put it at right around like $22 or something. but Gradius 3 and 4 on the PlayStation. This is just awesome. I'm a huge fan of Gradius 3, even though, like, for the longest time, the version I had played was the SNES version, and I got really good at it to the point where I could beat it without dying. And then when I did finally eventually sit down and start playing the Gradius 3 arcade machine, I got my ass handed to me in a hi-hat. The arcade, way more difficult than the SNES version. I'll stick with that one, thank you. But this, we got some arcade conversions to the PS2, Gradius 3, which historically is my favorite in the series, and also Gradius 4, which is no slouch. The game is awesome. Basically, if it has Gradius in the title, it's gonna be a great game. This going along, I think Gradius 5 as well is one I come across on occasion. Gradius 5 is awesome too, but that maybe we'll save that for another day when I have another copy, maybe another successful game hunt. But yes, Gradius 3 and 4 on the PS2. Yeah, I'm very happy to have picked that up, so I'm going to test this out, play it, have some Gradius style fun, and then I'll ship it on to one lucky boy or girl. Who knows who it could be. But yeah, so a bunch of great games today, including one that I get to keep for myself, and it didn't cost us an arm and a leg. So there you go, everybody. Thanks for watching this game hunting video. Went to Hard Off, had ourselves a good time. And I'm checking my Google Maps. Like I said, down in the description, I'll put a link, the Google Map link to the Hard Off that I was at today. So if you ever feel like going there, if you're in Tokyo, by all means, go check it out. I'm sure you'll love the area. Musashi, Koyama, that was my first time going there today. But it was really nice. It's a very cool neighborhood. So if you pop in there, have a good time. Go to the Liquor Off, and then maybe go to the Baskin Robbins or something. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, everyone, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.